often with little attention, only to be discovered years later near the Atlantic Ocean. The first cluster of victims discovered in December 2010 became known as the Gilgo Four. All four were young women who worked as escorts, disappearing between 2007 and 2010. Their remains were found wrapped in burlap, placed a short distance apart along Ocean Parkway. Similarities immediately suggested a single offender, operating undetected for years. As investigators expanded their search, the crime scene grew far beyond expectation. In the months that followed, additional remains were discovered in nearby shoreline and marshland areas. Some victims had been missing for years, even decades. This raised an unsettling question. Were all victims connected to the same killer? Or had multiple offenders used the isolated area as a dumping ground? The location itself played a critical role in the mystery. Ocean Parkway stretches across barrier islands, separating the Atlantic from inland bays. At night, large portions are dark, isolated, and surrounded by thick vegetation. Ideal for someone familiar with the area to dispose of bodies unseen. Maureen Brainerd Barnes disappeared in 2007 after traveling to New York to work as an escort. Soon after, Melissa Barthélemy vanished in 2009, followed by Megan Waterman and Amber Lynn Costello in 2010. Each woman had advertised escort services online and arranged meetings before disappearing. The disappearance of Melissa Barthélemy introduced one of the most chilling elements. After she vanished, her younger sister received taunting phone calls from a man using Melissa's phone. The caller mocked the family and suggested that Melissa was dead. Investigators determined calls were made from public locations around Manhattan, avoiding detection. Despite horrifying discoveries, the investigation moved slowly. Jurisdictional disputes complicated the case, and critics argued early decisions delayed progress. Families of victims often expressed frustration that the case did not receive urgency. For more than a decade, the Long Island serial killer remained unidentified. Theories ranged from a local resident to a truck driver or construction worker. Others speculated the killer may have been someone with law enforcement knowledge. Then, in 2023, the investigation took a dramatic turn. Authorities arrested Rex Heuermann, an architect from Massapequa Park, Long Island, charging him with multiple murders connected to the Gilgo Beach victims. Investigators had spent years re-examining evidence, including phone records, DNA, and witness statements. According to prosecutors, Heuermann used burner phones and conducted online searches about the investigation. Authorities also linked DNA evidence from hair samples found on victims to his household. The arrest stunned the community. Residents had wondered if the killer lived among them. The idea that an ordinary professional could be connected to such horrific crimes forced reconsideration. Even with the arrest, the full story of the LISK investigation remains incomplete. Investigators continue to examine whether additional victims are connected to the same suspect. Some remains found date back years before the Gilgo Four, raising the possibility of a longer timeline. For the families, the case has always been about more than headlines or speculation. It is about daughters, sisters, and mothers whose lives were cut short. Many fought to keep their loved ones' stories in the public eye, determined they would not be forgotten. The LISK case also exposed deeper issues within the criminal justice system, particularly how missing persons cases involving sex workers are often treated differently. Advocates argued that earlier attention might have progressed the investigation faster. Today, the windswept dunes and marshlands of Gilgo Beach remain a haunting reminder. What once appeared to be an ordinary coastline became one of America's most infamous crime scenes. Even as court proceedings continue, many questions remain unanswered. How long had the killer been operating? Were there additional victims? And how did someone manage to commit such crimes for years without being caught? For investigators, the case stands as both a warning and a lesson. That predators often hide in plain sight, and that the truth sometimes takes years to uncover. And for the families who waited so long for answers, the hope remains that every detail will finally come to light.